Hi. I'm here to talk about why the first two Thor films aren't great. And by first two Thor films, I mean the first two solo Thor films that are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know that Thor was previously in the TV film The Incredible Hulk Returns, which is a better film than the first two Thor films. Um, Thor and Thor the Dark World aren't the worst Marvel films or anything like that, but they aren't as good as they could have been. The first Thor film is a mostly okay film. Chris Hemsworth, I think, was the right choice for Thor. He's an entertaining lead. But it does feel like the character of Thor wasn't reaching his full potential yet. Um, him learning and going through stuff isn't the worst. I think he has an okay character arc, but it's not the most compelling thing, and it's certainly not the most memorable thing or anything like that. Uh, Jane Foster as a character um, isn't that well developed or complicated of a character in the first Thor film. I don't think that Loki is an amazing villain. I don't think that he's as over the top fun as I think he could have been. I feel like there's definitely attempts to make Loki funny, but I think he could have been a really super over the top sort of character that really popped out. And I feel like the films never really did that with Loki, which I do think is a waste of potential. Odin is good. Anthony Hopkins was definitely a great choice for the role. And I do wish that he got a little bit more to do in the film because I think he's one of the most interesting characters in it. And I think it's an passable, entertaining, blockbuster sort of film. I don't think that it's super boring. I don't think it's terribly annoying or stuff like that, but it does feel like Thor's character development could have been explored a little bit more. Loki could have been more entertaining. Jane Foster could have been given some more personality traits. I feel like there's a lot more that could have been explored, and I think with the world that Thor is from, I feel like there's a lot more interesting stuff that could be explored. I think that having a lot of the film on Earth isn't the worst thing, but I do think that exploring some other things could have been more interesting. So I think that the first Thor film uh, is a pretty okay sort of feeling film, but I don't think that it's an amazing film for Thor. When it comes to the sequel, Thor the Dark World, unfortunately, the Dark World feels like a step down from the first Thor film, and I don't have a super great opinion of happiness towards the first Thor film, so the Dark World being a step down is not a good thing. The Dark World is a pretty bland, forgettable sort of film. Thor is still an okay lead. Chris Hemsworth is still good at playing him. Uh, Odin is still pretty interesting, but Malekith is a very generic, uninteresting character. So that's not good for the main villain. Malekith is incredibly underwhelming, unfortunately. Um, and since he's responsible for the big conflict of the film, it's hard to be super interested. And there's a lot of Thor and Loki not getting along the best, and um, I don't think it's the most interesting. There's something involving their mom that I don't think was as emotionally impactful as it could have been. I don't think the mom gets enough time to really shine as a character. and I kept forgetting about her, which I think is a problem because she's somewhat important in the Dark World. And Jane is once again not super compelling. There's a lot of comedy relief in the film involving uh, the characters on Earth, and a lot of it doesn't feel super important or necessary to the main plot. And I don't even think it's the worst comedy or anything like that, but it doesn't feel like it's a good use of time. I feel like there could have been more time spent making Malekith a more interesting character. It feels like time isn't being spent on the best things, and Thor and Jane's relationship isn't the most compelling. Um, it's not awful, but I do think it could have been better. So, Thor and its sequel feel like they're lacking some important elements. I feel like the characterizations could have been done better. It is a thing where Thor himself, I do think, is a decent character, and I really like the actor playing him in the films, but I do think that there are better ways to explore the character of Thor, and I don't think Thor or the sequel, The Dark World, are as entertaining or as memorable as the Hulk Thor TV film from the 1980s. So I feel like that's not too good. I don't have super passionate feelings of anger towards the first two Thor films, but I do feel somewhat disappointed by them. But feel free to let me know what you think.